You're listening to Bigfoot Society, and I'm Jeremiah Byron. In this show, we go beyond the campfire stories to bring you firsthand encounters from people who say they've seen something impossible, from backwoods trails and remote mountain haulers to quiet farms and crowded highways. The stories come from everywhere, and each one leaves us with more questions than answers. These are the voices of the people who've lived it, so settle in, because today you'll hear another account that just might change the way you see the woods forever. So stay with us. All right, Bigfoot Society, you've got the privilege of talking to Micah today. Micah is a university professor from New York State that just had a very interesting encounter that happened recently in September of this year. He's also a listener of the show. But welcome to the show, Micah. How are you doing today, sir?
Jeremiah, I am doing well. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. This Allegheny National Forest area does come up a few times on the show, and the more I look into it, the more I realize how it is very remote in places, and there's a lot of things going on there, but definitely some Bigfoot activity as well. Feel free to take us back a few weeks to what you guys encountered in this area.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Again, Jeremiah, thanks for doing what you're doing and letting people talk about their experiences. I think it's super helpful. Yeah, so maybe before that experience, I'll just back up and provide some context here. Growing up, I didn't hear about Bigfoot, think about Bigfoot. I think the only thing I knew about Bigfoot was from like Harry and the Hendersons. You know, I thought Bigfoot was Alf or E.T. It's just this kind of imaginary thing, this cultural icon out there. So no real thought given to Bigfoot growing up. Went off to school, working on my master's and doctorate degrees. I've been in the teaching business for quite some time now. So again, most of my upbringing and even my adulthood never really thought much at all about Bigfoot, but probably a couple years ago, and I'm honestly not even sure how it all came into being, I heard something from Dr. Jeff Meldrum. And listening to him speak, I know that he recently passed away, but listening to him speak and talk about the anatomy of the Bigfoot footprint and his research into this, it just got me really fascinated. I thought, wow, this is a guy in academia talking about this. Here's a man who is certainly qualified, and just hearing him, he's just a fascinating speaker, really gifted there, and just going into some of the details, it got me curious about Bigfoot. And so I started to do some more research and found out that there have been sightings of Bigfoot in the Northeast. So I live in the Northeast. So about a little over a year ago, I decided to get some buddies of mine, and we would go on a camping trip in the Salt Fork, Ohio area, because I found out there was a conference there, found out about the whole Bigfoot lore. So about a year ago, some buddies of mine and I, we went into the Salt Fork area for three or 4 days to do our own expedition. And while we were there, we had a great time. There's a lot of other Bigfoot researchers. And so at night, you'd hear people doing the wood knocks or doing the calls, which was a little frustrating because I thought I was doing something really novel, but come to find out there's a lot of people that are involved in this kind of stuff. So after that trip, I started thinking maybe everyone's just hearing everybody else. So you hear a wood knock in the woods, and maybe it's just somebody else doing it. And so I dismissed it once again. But my daughter, when she heard about our trip and she saw the pictures and things like that, she's like, "Dad, I want to go on a Bigfoot expedition with you." I said, "Clara, I don't really know if Bigfoot's real, but if you want to do this for your birthday, we'll have some fun with it." So she invited her cousins to come along with us, and we decided to go to Allegheny National Forest. It's not too far from where we live in New York. Beautiful area. So we went a couple weeks ago. We were out there in Allegheny National Forest, set up our camp, just had a great time. It was good spending time with her cousins, my sister's kids. One's getting ready to get married, and the other was just graduated recently with her biology degree. And so she's looking into going into that field. So we just had a great time camping out, having fun, making s'mores, just having a good time. And in preparation, though, for that camping trip, having experienced what I did in the Salt Fork area, I told everybody, I said, all right, now, a couple things. First, we need to make sure we listen to the animal sounds that we could possibly hear at night so that we're not thinking everything is Bigfoot. So you had them listen to coyotes, owls, and just get a sense of the sounds of the forest. And then also, I wanted to make sure that we found a spot where we wouldn't be near other potential researchers. So just tried to pick a spot in the middle of nowhere that would be hard to get to so that we could do our little expedition at night. So again, we spent some time hearing the different sounds of the forest, but then also wanted to know what an alleged Bigfoot sound was like. So we heard like the Ohio Howl and some other sounds from different YouTube stations. And they're fascinating, but I didn't really think much of it, and certainly didn't think they would hear any of those sounds. It's about 11 o'clock at night, and we had decided to go to a spot that was really remote. Allegheny is big, something like 500,000 square acres. So it's a large area. But again, we try to find a spot where there would be nobody camping, and we wouldn't be hearing other people making Bigfoot sounds or anything like that. So we drove down this dirt road for, it was a good 8 miles, found a trail, and we started just walking down the trail. And you see the deer and you see their eyes, and it's creepy. You hear the owls. We heard some coyotes. So a lot of things were popping out at night. So then my nephew decides he wants to do the Bigfoot howl. And so he belts it out. It was actually pretty impressive. I wasn't expecting it to be as impressive as it was. I was like, hey, man, that was solid. And we were laughing. And again, nothing was happening. So we walked a little bit more down the trail. And then he decides to send out another howl. And he belts it out again. And like a typical person type belting out that kind of a sound, it was higher pitched. So he belts it out again. And we're just chuckling. And then we hear this response. And Jeremiah, the best way I think I can describe it, it was like a low-pitched, mournful howl, but it was like a long duration. And we could generally get a sense of where it was coming from. So we were near one of the game land areas where people can't be camping. So it was coming out of that area. And it was so just, we were not ready for that at all. And my first thought was that like a coyote? And then it sounded again. And so I know what coyotes sound like. That's not a coyote. I know what an owl sounds like. And it's definitely not an owl. And when it sounded the second time, like all the different kind of creatures that were near us, again, the deer and some of the other animals, they all left. It was eerily quiet. So you've got the 5 of us there, my son, my daughter, my nephew and niece. And for about 15 minutes, off and on, these sounds would come back. And sometimes they were low and long in duration, again, almost like a mournful howl. Other times they were higher pitched. There was like a whoop, some whoop sounds. And we thought, okay, could this be people? But where we were and where the sounds were generally coming from, I'm very confident that it wasn't people. And it didn't have an artificial sound. So it wasn't like if you heard a sound being like blasted out of like a sound blaster or something, there's like a unique, you could tell that it's not like a natural sound. This was a very natural sound. It was a living sound, and there was variety in it. When the one sounded for a few moments, then we noticed there was a response back. So the first sound was coming out of the northeast of where we were standing. And then the other sound was almost directly east of us. And again, both of these areas, I'm very confident there weren't people around. And so the two whatever was making these sounds, the two were communicating back and forth. And sometimes, again, it was a longer sound. Sometimes it was a higher pitched sound that would almost have a melody to it where it would go high, it would go low, but then it would go right back high again without it being like, so for example, if a coyote howls and he goes down, it's almost like he's got to catch his breath and go back up again. There was no catching of the breath, like when the sound would go down and then go back up again. And then you'd hear the longer sound would be followed by these whooping type sounds. And the two were communicating with each other. There was a slightly different quality about the voices, but it was still the same kind of tone and pitch. So you could tell that whatever was making this, it's the same animal communicating back and forth. And during this time, there's no coyotes barking or howling or anything like that. All the deer had booked it. No bats flying, just nothing. It started getting a little creepy, though, because the sounds were moving toward us. So it's whatever was making the sound started moving toward us at a pretty decent rate. And during that whole time, as we were listening, my nephew stopped any kind of making of sounds. So he wasn't interacting with them at all because they were just interacting with each other. He had stopped. But the sounds got closer. So my poor son, he just got really nervous. He's like, "Yeah, we got to leave. We got to leave." Because, again, they were coming close. I was getting a little nervous as well because I thought, boy, I mean, my nephew's about to get married here. I would hate to see something happen to him before he gets married. And, again, this was just so unexpected, just totally unexpected. We called it a Bigfoot expedition, but we weren't actually thinking anything would happen. We're just doing it. It's my daughter's birthday, so we're just trying to make this something fun and make it an adventure. A memorable adventure, just being out in the woods. Yeah, Jeremiah, again, it went on for about 15 minutes back and forth, different types of sounds, but definitely from the same creature, not artificial sounds. There was a very natural quality to it, and it definitely could not have been a person. Like, I've heard people try to do Bigfoot howls, and this did not sound like people at all. The quality was something I don't think anybody could have possibly produced. I don't know anybody with the kind of lung capacity to do that. As they started getting closer, my nephew, he started getting a little nervous. He decided to howl again. And at that point, the howling stopped. I don't know how close they were. It was just pitch black. And we were in a pretty dense area. I have no idea how close these things were. Everything was very quiet. Again, my son was getting super nervous. I was getting a little nervous, so we decided to head back. So we walked back toward our car and tried to be not super quiet on the way back, just in case. We wanted to make sure that we were being heard. But yeah, that's in a nutshell our story. I honestly debated sharing it because it was just so stunning. Just, again, not anything on my radar. I'm still trying to, even now, kind of process exactly what happened. I noticed, however, on your podcast that you had interviewed people who had experiences in Allegheny. So I thought, okay, I'm not the only one. And again, I debated because in my profession, as a professor, that topic is not, it's a frowned upon topic. And again, I didn't have any real prior belief in Bigfoot before this experience. My sister encouraged me. She said, "You need to record this so that you remember it." And we all talked about it before I got on the show here. We all talked about it. So to make sure that our stories were all in alignment, and we all were there. We all witnessed the same thing. We heard the same sound. We didn't see anything. And again, we weren't going with what you might call proper equipment for something like this, because this was just going to have a good time. And in that moment, I look back and I think I should have recorded the sounds, but I was just so engrossed and enamored with what was going on. I just was in the moment. We were all in the moment, and we were all just stunned. Because again, we know what an owl sounds like. We know what a coyote sounds like. And that's not what we heard. This was a different thing altogether. So we got back, and I think all of us were just trying to process what had transpired. And I wanted to record this because I thought maybe others have had similar experiences. Again, I know that there are sometimes people hear other people calling out, but where we were, there were no people. I'm very confident of that. And again, the quality just was not something that could have been produced by any person. And the fact that there was so much variety in the sound, but yet different from any other animal we had heard before, indicated to us that this wasn't artificial either. And talking with my niece, she had the biology background. She was really perplexed. She's like, Uncle Micah, I do not know what we heard. This is not something I'm familiar with at all. Yeah, that's our story.
That's awesome. That's something I was actually going to bring up because you mentioned one of them has the biology background. So you would assume that if it was like some kind of coyote or a wolf or some kind of predator in that area, she would be right on that. But it sounds like she was thrown for a loop as well, you're saying.
Yeah. We were all thrown for a loop. And again, the only thing that we could compare it to, there was the Ohio howl sound. It was an initial one. And it went, we probably heard that particular sound maybe 6 times, something like that. And then there were different sounds where it was, I don't want to say like a whale beat, now like it goes up and goes right back up again. There's like a certain melodious quality to it. There was that, and they were going back and forth with each other, which was fascinating to me. It's like I felt like we were in the middle of a conversation between these two creatures, not knowing what they were, but they kept on getting closer, and they were moving at a rate that a person walking through the woods could certainly not have done. So they progressively were getting closer and closer.
Did hearing these sounds affect anyone in your group physically in any way?
That's a good question. My son got really nervous, and he does get more sensitive to sounds. He was very nervous. I think we were all in like high octane mode. Oh my goodness, what on earth is that? So we were all very engrossed. You could hear your own heart beating as you're listening to these sounds because you're completely mesmerized by what's going on. And in the moment, again, I'm not thinking I should get my phone and record this. I'm in it. I'm fully in it and just trying to just take everything in as I'm hearing these two creatures going back and forth. And it was so fascinating. Just nothing that I've ever thought I'd experience, just completely outside of my box of what I thought was possible, to be honest. But I don't know if anybody was, other than my son, that was more uniquely scared.
Gotcha.
We were all really just in it.
Would you, and just asking, because there's a lot of research going on in this area right now between different parties, we'll say, in the community.
Right.
Would you be able to provide a approximate location of where this happened within the National Forest?
Yeah. The only reason I'm hesitant, and I welcome your input on this, because maybe this is just me being wonky. The only reason I'd be hesitant is I'd hate to have like a bunch of people go in there and just disturb these creatures, or people start hearing each other. But it was near one of the game land areas. So I know that, for example, you've got, I'm sure, like I went on like a website to get a sense of where sightings have occurred, because we didn't want to go anywhere near where sightings had already been, because we thought if people are going to be out, they're going to be out in those areas. I know that there's been some sightings near the reservoir there. We were far from that area. I know some people do some work in the Hickory Creek Wilderness. We were removed from that area. Again, we just tried to find some, like, where the game lands are, because people do what they want to do, right? But they're not supposed to, in theory, be in the game lands at night. So we were right by one of those game land areas. But if you think it would be helpful to divulge where that was, I'd be happy to do that. My initial hesitancy was like, I'd hate to see a bunch of people just flooding into that area, and then it just becomes disturbing whatever we heard.
I absolutely get it.
It would be good to share it. I'll share it. Yeah.
I think in that case, I'm thinking specifically about, there's 2 gentlemen in this area that are really doing good research work, and it might be, okay, if I could give it specifically to them. So I'll be probably cutting out a few minutes of this part. You know what I mean? That could help them out quite a bit, but I'll leave it up to you.
Oh yeah, I know. I'd be happy to.
Okay.
People that take it seriously, that aren't gonna do anything to harm whatever these creatures are. Like, yeah. Because, for example, when we were in Salt Fork, we had met these different research groups, and we weren't trying to be a research group. We were just a bunch of dudes hanging out, just having a good time, but also just trying to add that as like a adventure element. But we heard about, there was something like 15 guys with like out there with their guns looking to shoot it. It's like, man, what in the world? Like, I was nervous that they might, like, what if they think I'm it and shoot me?
Yeah.
So I know that there are some people that, no, it's super not cool. No. I was like, what the mess, man.
Yeah, let's not do that, guys.
Like, not cool.
Everyone who's listening, let's not do that.
Yeah. Let's definitely not do that. No. But yeah, feel free to, I'd share the GPS coordinates with you. And Jeremiah, the fact that you let people share their stories, I'm just blown away how many people have had some kind of an encounter. And again, not people that, some people, they're going to see what they want to see. There's confirmation bias. I totally get that. But people that have no skin in the game whatsoever are coming out and they're sharing their stories. Like, something is clearly going on. And I'm aware that there's, obviously, as someone in the world of academia, I'm aware of the reasons why people are skeptical, but there's enough folks that are coming out where it's like, okay, I don't think between the science and the testimonies that you can just easily dismiss this. It's worth some serious research and consideration, being willing to set aside your bias to actually find out what is going on, what are people experiencing. Because again, what we experienced, I can't point to a known animal in that area and say, yup, that's what we heard.
Exactly.
And again, I know those sounds. Yeah. Oh, this was a different thing altogether. Whatever made it was powerful. Whatever made it, that's the Ohio Howl sound, along with other sounds from different sites that are allegedly Bigfoot. Like, and this was not a artificial sound. Like, it was very natural. The quality was very clear too. I'm not the only one who's had something like that happen. So again, if for people that are serious about it and they want to do the research, yeah, we'd be happy to help where we can.
Did anyone in your group have anything out of the ordinary happen after this experience when they got back to their house or in the last few weeks?
I don't think so. No, nothing unusual or weird or wonky. No, I don't think so. Again, we all thought it was cool that we experienced that together.
Absolutely.
Like, that's a memory we'll never be able to, that's something that's going to be a cool shared experience. To coin the phrase from the Inside Out movie, it's a core memory that we're going to be able to have. And I'm so glad I was able to have that with my kids.
Absolutely. It's very cool. It is very cool.
It's super cool. Yeah, it's just a gift. So I'm really thankful for it. And yeah, my kids were like not Bigfoot believers before that experience. My nephew and niece, they were not, like, none of us were coming in, okay, we're going to confirm tonight that there's like Bigfoot out there. It's like, no, we're just out there having fun, goofing around, not expecting anything to happen. And we're just trying to process, like, now that's what we heard. We've heard that sound. And for about a good 15 minutes, just back and forth, which was awesome. I wish there was some way. I am not a music-y person. I don't have the capacity to reproduce the sound. If I could, I would. It was just mesmerizing. So if anything, if not the weird, but in the moment, we were all super mesmerized and just like in awe that this was happening. And the sounds that they were going back and forth were just, that is so cool. So cool.
That is really cool. Is there a desire, do you think, from the people involved to go out and do something similar again? Or is it a thing where they're like, yeah, that was okay once, we're done with this?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think we'll definitely do it again. We may pick, I don't know if we go to the same location. We thought about trying to plan it out next year at the exact same like time and day. If these creatures just roam around, there's a lot of area to roam around, obviously, in that between Allegheny National Forest, which then goes up into New York. So there's just plenty of room for something like that to live. Plenty of natural resources between creeks and fruits and other small prey. There's plenty for something like that to live there without ever being detected. But if it does go in some kind of like a pattern We've thought about going back next year, same time, same location, and trying to reproduce it. But if it never happens again, it's still something that we have a memory about that we can. It's like most people don't. It's really cool. But yeah, we'd like to try to do it again for sure.
Wow, it's a cool story, and it's cool that you'll be able to listen to this years down the road and be like, hey, this is when it all started. Thank you for sharing your experience with us today, Micah. I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing what happened to you guys. Definitely keep us in the loop if anything else does happen down the road, and we would love to hear from you.
Yeah. Yeah, Jeremiah, again, thanks for what you're doing, letting people talk about their experiences. It's helpful. It gives us something. Those who share the experience, it gives us something that we can look back on and remember. It's recorded for us. Appreciate the questions that you asked. Just keep prodding a little bit, which was good. And then for those who've had experiences, it's good to know, okay, we're not weird. We're not the only ones that something's happening to. So thanks for your work, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, Thomas.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. How are you doing?
Good, you?
Doing good. What brings you up today, sir?
Hey, I wanted to talk to you about a vocal I heard. Probably it was last winter, probably middle of January. I'm in West Virginia, and we, as a family, went on a skiing, snowboarding trip at Snowshoe Mountain. I don't know if you know where that's at. Pocahontas County, West Virginia. It's near the Mongolia National Forest. And we was on the mountain doing a night ski, and we come off the mountain about, I would say, probably 11 o'clock, maybe closer to midnight, and it was so foggy. Your fog lights, your headlights wouldn't even work. You could barely see the lines on the road. And we was going back towards Marlington, West Virginia. We had a hotel room in Marlington. And from Snowshoe to Marlington, it's just maybe 20 miles or so. And we was all in the car going back to Marlington. And my girlfriend, she was driving at the time. She said, "Did you hear that?" And of course, we had the radio playing. And I said, "What are you talking about?" And she pulled off the side of the road. She said, "Do you hear that?" And it's nothing like I've ever heard before. Like, I've heard Bigfoot vocalizations, and I used to watch Finding Bigfoot, stuff like that. But it's legit what that sounded like. I can't think of anything else in the woods there that would have made that sound to where it had been loud enough to hear it in the car. So that was what I wanted to come to you about. It was so loud it overtook the radio in the car, but the vocalization, it was seconds, like maybe no longer than 10 seconds. But it was definitely something big, and I've never heard anything like that before.
Wow, that's wild, dude. It's so crazy that it was over the radio of the car in Pocahontas County. It's some of the weirdest stuff I've gotten from West Virginia is in that county. I've had some really weird stuff in that county, Bigfoot related, like people that have seen a black fog like materialize into Sasquatch. I've had one guy, he saw one and it caused him to not be able to control his body anymore. It was really weird. There's some weird stuff that happens in that county with Bigfoot. So I would say if that's somewhere that you're a lot in Pocahontas County, I would have your head on a swivel for sure, dude. There's some weird stuff going on.
Yeah, we go just a couple times a year, and we was on we go on a ski trip a couple times, a handful of times, and it was so weird that noise overtook everything that was in the car at that time. And it's nothing like I've ever heard before. I couldn't describe it to you. But yeah, it's hard to say what it was, but us West Virginians, we want to say, oh, it was Bigfoot and this and that, but I'm not sure what it was. But
you never know, and it's a add-on, just another thing that has happened, and maybe there's been another person that's had something like that just happen or happen similarly in the same area. But dude, I appreciate you coming up and sharing. Do you mind if I use the audio from this in a Bigfoot podcast?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, let us know if you have anything else happen out there in the future, man.
Yeah, we're in Pocahontas County a couple times a weekend, and I'm from Point Pleasant. I'm on the Ohio side. That's where I'm from. But yeah.
Good stuff, man. Thanks for coming up. I appreciate it.
Yep, no problem. Thank you.
Hey, Stassi, how's it going?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, you sound great. Do you have a Bigfoot story to share?
Yeah, I do. It's not a sighting, but I still think it's a kind of good story.
All right.
I live right by Cuyahoga Valley National Park, and I've lived here my whole life, and we used to go night hiking. Like once a year, we would go out around July or August, typically when the moon was like really full so we could see pretty easily. And one year what year was it? 7 or 8 years ago, I think. It was middle of August, full moon, lit night, and we left from a guy's house that I lived at, who lived right off of the park system. So he was like one of the last couple houses, or the first couple houses that kind of transitioned from the national park. So the nice thing is if you walked from his backyard, you could just go directly into the park system, which is what we did. We probably hiked for about 2-3 miles into the woods. We left at about like 12:30 or 1 in the morning. And we probably hiked for 2-3 hours. And finally, we just posted up. We made a little fire, even though technically I don't think you were allowed to in the park system. And I think it's notable as well to say that people technically aren't allowed to be camping or anything in this park system. Technically, we should have been alone. But it was about 4 in the morning, I think 4:30, and we had a campsite up for about an hour at that point. We had a little fire going. And we were so far in the woods, I was making some hooting and hollering noises. I've lived here my whole life. We don't really have bears or cougars or any big animals in the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. So it's like a relatively safe place, at least I thought. And so I was hooting and hollering. I was feeling super free, like deep in the woods, really late at night, no one around. And at 4:30 in the morning, 4 to 4:30, with the fire going, I say that because I feel like most animals or any animal wouldn't walk up to a fire going and a human screaming. I made like a sneezing sound and I yelled into my sneeze. It's like a unique sound, kind of like a ha-choo-y sound. And something like 5 or 10 yards, maybe 10 to 20 yards away from the campsite, copied the sound. It was definitely not an echo. I've lived here my whole life and I've thought about this a long time, and I don't think it could have been any animal. My only thought would be a human, or after I've thought about this more, maybe like a Bigfoot. And I think Bigfoot because, first off, when we heard the sound, it was me and another guy. I had the flashlight on the thing, and it was like so close in the woods. You could hear it walking. It sounded very bipedal as well. So my first initial thought was some person was playing a prank on me. I didn't think it could have been any other sound but a human at first. But then as I had the flashlight on the thing and I could hear it walking, but it wouldn't enter the actual light because we were in the trees, so your flashlight could only go so far with the trees blocking it. And I was talking to it, and I'm like, hey, joke's over, show yourself. And for 10 minutes, it just paced around and never said anything. And that's where we got a little even more freaked out. And we were up like the whole night after that. And as soon as it got light, we were out looking around and we saw these big indentations, but couldn't make out anything. And still at this time, I wasn't really thinking Bigfoot or anything. But then we make it back to the house and the owner of the property is out and we just started talking about what happened. And oh, wow, he had all these stories about Bigfoot, or specifically like a monster. They didn't think it was a Bigfoot. They just heard crazy sounds back there. They had a story about one of their kids seeing a big black furry monster running out from the woods and like having some trauma from it. And the family like inherently believed that there's some monster back there and that we potentially ran into that. And what made it even more kind of, hey, this actually could be something, is I didn't even know there was a thing called a grassman. I don't know if you ever heard of the Ohio grassman. I had no idea that there was tons of sightings in the area that I was at. And I mean, I'm talking in like a 1 to 2 mile vicinity. There are multiple reports, quite a lot actually, I think, if you add them all up. Wasn't a direct sighting, but still a weird story that got me into it.
I'm glad you came up because that area, the Cuyahoga, it's got a lot of activity in it that you brought up. And I don't know if you know Small Town Monsters on YouTube, but they have a couple episodes about sightings in that park. There's a lot of Bigfoot activity in that national park. It's crazy.
Yeah, I just recently made a post about it in the Cuyahoga Valley group. We have a Facebook group, and it got a lot of activity, and some of the people posted those videos that you just mentioned on YouTube, and some of the Helltown videos cover this too. They were awesome to watch.
Good stuff, dude. I'm glad you came up. Hey, I have a Bigfoot podcast. Could I use this conversation in that podcast?
Yeah, certainly.
Awesome.
I tried submitting this to BFRO a few times, but for some reason it never goes through whenever I submit the story.
I'm glad you came up here and shared it.
Sure.
Sounds like you had something pretty close to you. So thank you for coming up, dude. I appreciate it.
Yep. Happy to share my story, and thanks for hosting this.
Thank you. Hey there. How are you?
Good, buddy. How you doing?
Good. Are you coming up to share something today, sir?
I'd love to. I don't necessarily have the quickest story, but
It's all right.
I think I have a good one. I'm from Western Pennsylvania. We have a bunch of state parks. My buddy and I hunt together, and we alternate filming per hunting. And we were hunting in one of the state parks, and we go deep as far as walking. Most hunters, they get out of their truck, walk 40, 50 yards, and they post up. But we definitely do our due diligence, and we get out there. And one evening, it was just about pitch dark. We were up in the air in our tree stands, packing up our things to come down, and we just heard some walking. And if you're an avid hunter, you can tell a deer or any four-legged animal compared to a two-legged animal. And we turned around with our flashlights. We could see something look like a person. We would expect it to be a person, but we were just so completely deep in the woods, and this individual was walking without a flashlight in the pitch dark. And we just said, hey, just to let everybody know, or whoever know, that we were there. And as soon as we did that, this person ran through the woods just as fast as a deer would run through the woods. And that was it. We got down out of our trees and we were back at our trucks as fast as we could. So that's really quick story, but that was definitely a hair-raising one.
Wow, did you say the western side of the state?
Western PA, southwestern PA, actually.
Oh yeah, sure. Say no more. The southwestern PA is absolutely nuts. Bigfoot stuff, dude. Especially you've got the Laurel Ridge area is crazy, and just south of Pittsburgh, that whole, because you lived it. But yeah, dude, it's wild down there. I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah, that whole area down there, the whole Chestnut Ridge, all the way down. And if you're looking, it goes from just a few 20 miles east of Pittsburgh all the way down through Connellsville, Uniontown, into Morgantown, West Virginia. That's a uninhabited ridge, and it is crazy down through there.
Wow. Do you ever go back to that same area?
That's one of our main spots that we hunt for bear, because it is so secluded, and a lot of mountain laurel. And if you're familiar with bear hunting, very tough terrain. But yeah, we go up there every year. And that was just literally, that was a long time ago. That was probably 15, 20 years ago. That was the only weird thing that we ever had and the only weird thing since. And yeah, so this is just an isolated incident. Whatever it was, didn't have a flashlight.
Absolutely. Have you ever heard any other people have stories from the same area?
No, not necessarily, other than like the TV things.
Okay,
Western
gotcha.
PA, like for the Bigfoot hunters and all that other thing. Yeah, they tell stories all the time about this area, but nobody personally.
Okay. I appreciate you coming up and sharing what happened to you guys that day. That's pretty wild stuff. Am I able to use this conversation in a Bigfoot podcast I have?
Sure, buddy. No problem.
All right.
Have a good evening.
Cool. You too, sir. Thank you. Hey, Kevin, thanks for coming up.
Hey, man, how you doing?
Hey, good. So you had a sighting down there near Bankhead National Forest?
Yeah, Bankhead National Forest is pretty well known for its camping, for its waterfalls, for its trails, but there's more to it than that. I'll say that.
Oh, yeah. I would love to hear your story if you'd be cool with sharing it.
Yeah. Tell me, what do you... So it started out probably 10 years ago, and it started out where we started seeing these weird lights in the trees. Okay?
Uh-huh.
Weird lights, and then we would start hearing weird things that we couldn't see. For example, we'd hear somebody run off in the bush, and then we'd look, and it'd be nothing. So quick. But yeah, Bankhead National Forest, I really hate to give my spot away, but they're there, brother.
Wow. What you're saying lines up with, I've talked to a few other guys in that area, and they always mention orbs too. Not just
Man, yeah.
Bigfoot, it's also orbs. Yep.
Yeah, you'll have all sorts of colors. You'll have red, blue, a real whitish, sometimes a green. But man, I'm not sure what those are. But I do know this, and I will share this. I believe that Bigfoot's eyes can illuminate light somehow.
Uh-huh.
And they're not red and glowing, okay? They're not red and glowing. But we've been squatching for probably a good 8 to 10 years, and it's gotten really interesting lately. 2015, we had our major encounter with a gray one, probably 30 feet from us. Only his bad luck was the moonlight, the clouds moved, and it lit him up, and he was freaked out, and he just floated right off. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow. And that was in Bankhead area.
That was in Bankhead area. And I'll be honest with you, what really pissed him off was we had one of those laser pointers, and we saw a couple orbs, and we pointed that laser right at that orb. Within a couple minutes, we had live action, man.
Really? So after you shined it at the orb, then the Bigfoot showed up?
Yes, sir. And and something else showed too that I don't want to get into, but
All right. I can guess, but if we don't get into it, that's no problem, man. I respect that.
yeah, you can guess. They're almost, I'm not going to say they're companions, but they definitely appear together for some reason.
Yep. I get you. Wow.
I've got video evidence.
Oh, you do? Okay.
I do.
Do you have a YouTube channel or anything?
I do, but I haven't loaded it to it. I haven't put it on it. It's pretty much for my safekeeping, and a couple people have heard it. You can hear some really, and this is going to blow people's mind. I don't know how many we got, a couple hundred. These creatures can speak English.
Uh-huh.
I'm here to tell you. Nobody knows me. I know that. I understand that. Bigfoot can speak English just like we can. I promise you.
Oof. Are you hearing full sentences or just certain words?
I'm hearing full sentences. I've got on audio where he asked me a question and I responded, and you can hear him say something after I responded. So it's very intelligent.
I sometimes hear people are hearing Native American words as well, but you're saying these are English.
What's crazy, on the video that we recorded, I said something in Native American. I don't know if you've ever heard that before. But I said something in Native American twice, a word that I've never heard, never used, and I've looked it up. But it's on the video. It's very interesting, my friend and friends that are watching. These creatures, I don't think they can be harmful. We've been tracking them, and there's a certain lay of land that they travel. They like their territory. I'll say that.
When you were very close to that gray one, were you able to see any details of it, or?
Oh yeah. He looked very human. He had purplish skin. His lips were pooched out. Kind of like, what's going on? He had a very human-like face, long hair, almost like he had just conditioned it. It was like flowing, like his hair on TV. But those are the most couple of things that I remember when I saw it was his face and his hair. His hair was like Dwayne Allman. Dwayne Allman hair is kind of the way we describe it.
It's very interesting. You said skin is purple. I've had two other people say that. One of them was a mother whose young child just outside of Oak Ridge, Oregon, said that he saw a purple one. That
Okay.
maybe he wasn't sure what, but now I've had two other people say that the skin was purple. That's really wild stuff.
If you see their skin, like on their hands, their lips, their face, they have a purplish hue to them. And man, I'm just a regular guy from North Alabama, but man, we've been studying these creatures.
Does your group have a name, or do you guys just keep in the shadows?
Keep it in the shadows for now. We're not sure what to do with it.
I get you. I understand. Wow, this is very interesting stuff. If you guys ever want to share any other info about what your research is finding, my email is bigfootsociety@gmail.com. I'd love to, anything else you want to share, I'd love to see it. But this is pretty wild stuff.
I can send you some emails of some orbs that have creatures inside of them.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if you've ever heard that before. Have you heard that before?
I have not. I've heard people seeing stuff inside the orbs. I'll say that.
Yeah. I don't know if that's pareidolia. I don't know what that is, but I'd like for you to look at it. What is your email?
It's bigfootsociety@gmail.com.
And I've also got one, bigfootsociety@gmail.com. Okay. I've also got one I caught during the daytime. He was blowing at us. I'm just going to share this real quick if that's okay. He was blowing at us almost like a bull would. Okay? Yep. That's what our brain went to. It did it a couple times. I took a camera, I took a couple snapshots, and we got out. After reviewing the shots, I got him.
Really?
I got him.
Oh my goodness.
About 100 yards away. About 100 yards away is where his stance was. And yeah, it just gets weirder from there, my friend. I'm an investigator by trade. I'll say that.
Okay.
And I just happened to latch onto this because my friend started seeing weird stuff in the woods. And he was like, Kevin, you got to come with me. Am I seeing things?
Okay. Gotcha.
And we've got pictures of structures that are mind-blowing, my friend.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Kevin, it's good to talk to you, man. Hey, I've got a podcast where I talk to people about Bigfoot. Can I put this conversation we had in that podcast? Is that all right?
If you'd like to, or we could record another one with how it started and then what led up to that. It doesn't matter to me. Whatever you like, man.
Okay, all right. Yeah, reach out to me and you'll send a few things over and we'll talk that way that way too. And I think we'll set something up. Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Okay.
Cool, man.
But this area is a hot spot and it's not unknown. There's very few people out there doing what we're doing, and we think that's to our advantage.
Gotcha. Good stuff, man.
Have you heard of them hitting a pot, like metal clanking yet? Have you heard of that yet?
The closest I've heard would be people hearing the sound of a car door slamming when there's no cars around.
Okay, so there is some metal. Okay, I got you. Yeah.
Yeah.
For some reason, they claim metal, my friend. I haven't figured it out, but they do.
It's very weird. Very strange stuff, dude.
Evidence is much more valuable than words, and I'll send it to you. I've got your email.
Okay.
What's your first name? Jeremiah. I appreciate you working on this. I plan to be a bigger part of your production here, so I hope to be back on, and I'll be in touch with you.
All right. We'll talk later, Kevin. Thank you.
Thanks, bud.
Good stuff. Kevin seems like a good dude. Hey, Gail, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I saw your comment about experiencing something in Vermont. It's very rare to hear anything from that state, so that's why.
I know, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Place in Caledonia County, north of here where I'm at now. I'm in New Hampshire now. Anyways, I used to live up there. My ex and I, we used to go out camping on this property that a friend of mine owned, and it took place it was near a swamp area. So you had to literally travel through the swamp to get to the property. And it was on a back road. And anyway, so we're sitting out there one evening inside in the truck. It was a F-150 pickup truck. It was a big truck. And we're sitting there just watching the stars. It's quiet. It's beautiful out there. No noise. You don't hear anything. And all of a sudden we start hearing trees crashing. So in a distance, and I'm listening carefully. I had the windows down. And we heard that first tree. Then we heard another tree crashing, getting a little bit closer. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what is that? And my ex says, that's a car on the dirt road. Well, I'm like, no, that is not a car. Because you can tell a car on a dirt road. And then another tree crash in the woods, and it's getting closer. I'm like, oh, I was getting a little bit nervous. I shoved in the center of the truck, so I wasn't near the window. And all of a sudden, a car then goes on the dirt road before you cross over the swamp. And I'm like, that's a car. You could tell what the sound is. And after that car went through, another tree crash. It could have been one or two more trees that crashed, and they would thump. They were getting knocked over. You could hear the thump on the ground as each one was getting knocked over. So I'm like, I'm not liking this. And all of a sudden it got quiet still. And then all of a sudden a big bang in the side of the pickup truck. It lifted the truck and moved us sideways. And I screamed, and my ex, I think he even got nervous, but I'm like, did you just do that? He goes, how am I going to move the truck? Because I didn't know if he stuck his arm out and whacked the truck, but it was louder than that. But that was the only thing I could think of. And then he's like, there's no way I could move the truck. So he immediately turned the truck on with the headlights. Now, we were sitting in the middle of the field. We were in the middle of the field. He turns the truck on, the headlights on. We circle, complete circle, and there's nothing there. We don't see anything. We didn't see anything going through the swamp. Absolutely nothing. Now, I don't think it was a moose. I do not think it was a bear. There's no way they'd be able to move a big truck like that sideways. And I'm like, please, we got to get out of here. And I live in where I lived up there. I wasn't too far. It only takes a minute to get out there. So I used to have also at my home, my old home, rocks tossed at me. I'd be sitting out back and there'd be rocks coming from nowhere, literally. I'm like, where did that come from? I lived right on the corner of a street and there's nobody around. It was during the day, everybody's working, kids in school. There's nothing around. We used to take the kids camping out there when they were younger. out in the swamp area, and we used to do like a survival camping with them. And we'd hear wood knocks and we'd hear other sounds. I've seen orbs out there. One time inside, like right at the beginning of a trail, there was a bright orb right there. I'm like, what is that? And this was before the encounter. And then recently, here in Sullivan County, New Hampshire, a friend of mine who's a cop, he had stopped by and he was telling me of something that recently just happened. His wife was visiting a friend of hers, and the house is probably across the field from where I live. There's like a dirt road, and not far from up that way. I guess the gentleman was taking his dogs out, and it was toward the evening. He had his flashlight and that, and the dogs started getting funny, acting funny and nervous. And he happened to look over, and he swore he saw a 13-foot Bigfoot.
Oh my goodness, that is rare for New England. Holy mackerel.
I know, right? But I've heard of them being that tall,
Yeah,
that they
out
can
in the
get that
Pacific
tall.
Northwest. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm like, no, please don't tell me this because I've already had an encounter. And my husband also has heard right outside our door, like the whoops that they make, the sounds the Bigfoots make. He has heard that sound.
There's some incredible accounts. Thank you. So, guys, this is the first part she was talking about is northern Vermont, way up
Yes,
there.
yes.
That's where Caledonia County is. Man, thank you for sharing what's going on in Vermont up there. I've never heard anything from up there. Just New Hampshire.
I've been listening to your show for a while, and I'm like, oh, I got to get on there and tell my story because I've been listening to your podcasts on YouTube and that.
Appreciate that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, a lot in Vermont that you've had.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, I've got to get up there because I know
absolutely.
I had an encounter.
That's wild. I've only heard of stuff like you experienced in Northern Vermont out in Washington and Oregon where the truck gets flipped over or something like that. Just
Really?
it's such a yours is man, that's scary. You weren't even able to see what it was that smacked the truck to the side.
That's
That's
it.
serious. Yeah.
We could not see anything because it was pretty darn dark out there. And we were watching the stars and that. Just it was a quiet time. And hearing those trees crash is what got me. And the sound getting very closer. And you'd literally, when the trees drop, you hear it. The thump.
Absolutely. Wow, Gail. Thank you for coming up. Is this can I use the audio from this conversation in the Bigfoot podcast I have?
Absolutely.
All right. Hey, keep me in the loop if stuff continues to happen. I'd love to hear about it. You can send me an email at bigfootsociety@gmail.com, or you can always, I'll keep doing these lives as well, and maybe
Yeah,
we'll hear. So,
definitely. I told my friend there who's a cop, I told him, please keep me updated and
mhm.
posted on this because I'm very curious about it.
Oh, yeah, definitely the right people need to know that stuff. So I'm glad that you're keeping an eye on it. But yeah, thank you for coming up.
All right, Bigfoot Society, I've got the privilege of talking to Chance today. Chance is an individual who has a Bigfoot research group called the Orange County Bigfoot Group based out of Orange County, Indiana, which if you've never seen where that county is, a lot of Hoosier National Forest is in there, which has come up on the show before. But welcome to the show, Chance. How are you doing, man?
Great, sir.
Doing great. It's a beautiful day out here in Iowa, and it's getting a little cooler out, so we're big fans of that out here. But, you know, Chance, tell me what got you into the whole Bigfoot subject to begin with out there in Indiana?
Well, originally, I was a paranormal investigator. And after my daughter was born, I got out of that, and I had to do something, so I leaned into the whole cryptozoology and recall some of the stories that my dad and my brother shared with me, which I now know. ended up being Bigfoot experiences. So I kind of fed off that. I haven't had a full-blown, what I consider a visual. I think I have got one on video before. I'm not 100% sure. But it's something that I've just grown to love. You know, I'm very passionate about the field and the study. I love to learn and just get out in the woods.
Absolutely. You know, this particular area that you're in, is it known for any type of interactions with Bigfoot? I know certain parts of the country, you know, sometimes you've got Oklahoma, which are a little crazier, and then anything like that going on?
Yeah. Pocahontas Lake has had some reports, if I ain't mistaken. I think you even had a few people on your show talking about experiences there, if I'm not mistaken. There's small towns like Skull, Lagodi, Paoli, which is currently where I'm at. There's some Hoosier National, like you said, around there. I've heard stories about that. I've heard more dog-ring stories from Hoosier National when I have Bigfoot. Ringo Reservoir was my mom's old home property. That's where my dad had his first experience. That took him to the fore. And there's all kinds of things that go on there. It's just one of the reasons why I created the group was for that reason, because, I mean, nobody can fully understand exactly what's going on, the encounters, experiences they have with this, with this creature. And when they try to talk to somebody, more times than not, they get ridiculed or made fun of, and they don't talk about it again. Well, I created the Orange County Bigfoot group to be somebody that they can come talk to. If it's just something they need to get off their chest or whatever, that's what we're here for. We don't charge a dime. We do everything free. We're just here to help.
Yeah, I like that. That's why we do this podcast as well. So it's good to hear that we're on the same page regarding that. You mentioned your father and your brother having Bigfoot experiences in the past. Is that anything that you might be able to share?
My father was a very cut, dry type of person. He was straight, blunt, to the point. But when it comes to telling this story, especially if he was drinking, he gets animate, but the story never changed. Drunk or sober, the story never changed. So that's why I never questioned whether he was messing with me or not. My dad came home from Vietnam. Like, he'd been home for like maybe a year or two. Went to my mom's old home place, the property, the squirrel hunt. And while he was hunting, he come across some bones. And kind of a tangent here real quick. My dad was a foreman or a medic in Vietnam. So he knows what he's looking at when he's, when it comes to bones and stuff like that. So he didn't think nothing of it because they look like just regular animal bones. But he said as he kept walking, he started seeing more. And eventually he come to a ridge and he seen where a bone trail was going up the ridge. He decided to go up that ridge to investigate. I remember him telling me the further up the ridge he got, the bigger the bones got. He could swear up and down. Some of them at one point appeared to be human. And when he got to the top of the ridge, it leveled off, and not that far in front of it stood a cave. And he said the smell from this cave was something off. It was burning his eyes, his nose. Said he thought he was going to puke because the smell was so rancid, so putrid. And about that time, he said he heard the evilest, darkest growl he's ever heard coming out of that cave, and two red eyes about 7 feet plus up in the air just started staring at him. And I asked him, Dad, what did you do? He said, son, I emptied both barrels of that shotgun, and I turned around and all butt off that ridge, and he goes, I never went back. And it took a lot for my dad to say he was scared. And even when he told the story, you could see where it still bothered me.
My goodness, that sounds incredibly intense. And especially, I mean, you have an individual that was a veteran in that conflict. And wow, that's incredible. Thank you for sharing that story from him.
Absolutely. My first I guess you could say, experience with Sasquatch was with my dad. It was in Tazewell, Indiana. That's in Crawford County. I will say this: Crawford County is teeming with encounters and experiences, and I know they are. But this one particular day, my dad and I were hunting, squirrel hunting, and while we were squirrel hunting, we would always do our tracking for the upcoming deer season. And we decided to walk this little creek, and we didn't have a drought that summer, so I mean, the creek was pretty much dry except for a couple spots. And we come around a corner, my dad stopped dead in his tracks, and I ran dead smack into him. I thought I was going to get in trouble. So I walked around, my dad looked at him, and he was white as a ghost, and I said, Dad, what's the matter? He goes, I don't know what made this track here. He goes, but we're not sticking around to find out. I look down, I'm thinking I'm going to see, oh, Dad's just a deer track in the mud or something like that. No, Jeremiah, I kid you not, if I'm lying, I'm dying. It was a perfectly shaped, looked like human trap, but it was way too big for a human. It had to be, let me think here, don't quote me on the size, but I got to tell you, it had to be at least 17, 18 inches long and maybe as far as 9 inches wide. I mean, it was massive. And we got out of that creek bed and went back to my Uncle Raymond's, and the thing that was really kind of messed up, scary about it, if you looked up out of the creek bed where this track was, you can see my uncle's house. So we got back to the house, and my Uncle Raymond asked how he done, and my dad proceeded to tell him the story of what we found. And what my uncle said to us next kind of caught me off guard, because they told me and my dad that he had been hearing strange howls and whoops behind the house. So we put two and two together, figured whatever made that track, it must have been making the howls and the whoops. And that was my first taste into the whole Bigfoot deal.
Oh my goodness. Is that a normal size track that you'll find out in that area? Because I know that's normal for like the Pacific Northwest, but I'm not, I guess, super familiar with what normal is for Indiana.
Yeah, no, I got to say, I think that was probably a rare occasion, because I've never heard, everybody I've talked to here in Indiana, the biggest I've heard them, I think I've heard like maybe 8 feet, 9 feet. I think one piece of property that I investigated, the guy says that the alpha there was probably close to 10 feet, the biggest I've heard.
My goodness, that's really intense. And do you find there's more activity down in southern Indiana as opposed to northern? I guess you're focused on southern, right?
Yeah, primarily southern. I mean, I'll go anywhere if I need to. I'll help anybody, whether they're in northern Indiana, central, or southern. But I think southern has more activity because it's more forestry, hilly. I think it's like a little bit more swampy. I think the food supply here is a lot better than up north. We got tons of deer, turkey, squirrel, fish, plenty of water to drink. Southern Indiana's covered caves, so there's plenty of shelter. I just think southern's got more activity than northern Indiana does. I could be wrong, though.
So when you have people reaching out to you from southern Indiana, is it mainly people reporting, hey, I've got something going on? Or is it some of, I've got something going on, I need someone to help me because I don't know how to handle this?
It's your both. Some people just want to tell their stories to get off their chest. They're good. I haven't got to talk to the young man for a while, but he used to work at a place called Paoli Peaks, and it's just 5 minutes from my house. He thinks he may have seen one there, so I've been trying to help him with that. I can tell it kind of bothered him when he was talking to me, so I've been kind of trying to help him with that. Like I said, I ain't got to talk to the poor guy for a while. I hope he's okay. But yeah, whether they want us to come out, check things out, or they just want to hey, I got to get this off my chest. I need to share with somebody. That's what we're there for. We don't pass judgment. We don't poke fun. We don't ridicule. I have made it clear with the group that if I catch you disrespecting somebody coming forward, you will be kicked out of the group and be banned, and I will let everybody else know what you've done. Because there's some people out there, Jeremiah, who genuinely need help with this because they don't know how to handle it. That they're struggling with it. And it breaks my heart that people are so disrespected because of it. I can't judge anybody on anything what I've had happen in my life. So
Yeah, absolutely. So when you have someone that's coming to you asking for help with a situation, is there any advice that you're usually giving them to be able to handle better when they've got activity really close to their house?
Yeah, I had one lady reach out to me. She told me that she thought she had some on her property, and they were, in lack of a term, scared. She didn't know what they were going to do or how they were going to act or anything. And I told her the best thing that I said, if you want, I can come with you while you do it. I would just go out to your wood line or your property. They understand. I mean, and I'm convinced they understand what we say. They understand our language. I just told her, just talk to them. Just let them know that you mean no harm, that you're not there to harm them, and ask them to be respectful and not to hurt anything that's on your property or your family or your friends. And she's done this, and so far, the last I heard, everything's worked out. She said everything's been real peaceful, and she hasn't had that nervous feeling anymore. I always just been a firm believer. Like when I step in the woods to go squirrel hunting or deer hunting, of course I've got a weapon. I always introduce myself before I step into the woods. Let them know I do have a weapon, but it is not for you. It's for something else. I wouldn't use it on you. If I had to, I would use it to protect you. And so far, knock on wood, I haven't had anything bad happen.
Absolutely. Have you had any close calls when you've gone out? Sometimes things can get pretty close to you without the creature actually being there.
Yeah. The only thing I've heard tree knocks, heard whoops. I went to a place called Little Patoka Boat Ramp with my daughter. We were fishing. We were by ourselves. My vehicle was the only one in the parking lot. We did hear a whistle, plain as day, and it couldn't have been no more than 5-10 feet from us. And she stopped and looked at me, and she goes, "Daddy," she goes, "What was that?" And I asked her, I said, "Well, what'd you hear?" She goes, "I heard a whistle." Yeah, I heard that too. She had a look on her face. She goes, "Do you think maybe that was a Bigfoot?" So maybe maybe it was. Maybe they're just letting us know that they're here, And she won't go back after that. She will not step foot in that place again.
Yeah.
Hey, I loved it. I thought it was cool.
You're all about it. That's really close, man. I mean, 5 to 10 feet is no joke, for sure.
I mean, it was, I mean, just plain as day. And what's funny is it sounded like a whistle my dad used to do. And my dad's not around anymore, God rest his soul, but it sounded just like his. And I didn't get anything demeaning or evil by it. It just, to me, it was kind of like, hey, just let you know I'm here. But my little girl wasn't going to have it, man. She was done.
Yeah, that's a lot for someone younger to go through, for sure. That might not be super into this as we are, but you're the first, I believe, that I've talked to from this area that's an actual researcher. Pretty sure. Do you have any thoughts on why Hoosier National Forest is such a good habitat for the Bigfoot, or is there any way you can explain like how big this forest actually is?
As a Hoosier National, I want to say it's at least a couple 100,000 acres, if not maybe more, give or take. I think that's a good place for them because, number one, there's plenty of cover. Number two, there's plenty of food, plenty of water. I just think, because, I mean, it's so thick in there, too. There's some places you can't get into. I know, I've tried. I just think it's a good place for them in general, because if they want to get away from somebody, they can go to the thickest part of that forestry and you'd never know it. And it's so easy for them to hide themselves in there. You go walk right past them and you never see them. You'd never know it.
Okay.
Just like that. Well, the one I think I caught on video, I didn't even know he was there. I video what I thought was a tree structure, and as I'm panning to the right, if you're watching the video, you'll see something literally raised up behind that structure. I never noticed that. Pan back around, it's gone. And the only reason I caught that part was because the owner of the property showed me the video. He goes, "Did you see what you caught?" I said, "No." He showed me on his tablet to watch. And sure enough, if you watch closely as I'm panning to the right, you'll see something raise up from behind that structure. And on that tablet, you can see, I mean, I've seen the forehead, I've seen the wrinkles, the caved-in eyes, the mouth, the ears, the hair. It looked like a black gray. And the look itself wasn't like a mean look. It was more kind of a, what are you doing kind of thing. And I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever captured to this point.
Wow. Do you guys have a YouTube channel, or is that available anywhere for public?
Yeah, we're still in the early processes. I created the group.
Okay.
Eddie Baird, he's the co-founder. He has activity on his property. I was hoping to get him with me today, but due to work schedules, he couldn't make it. But Eddie, I think, is a guy that you would really want to talk to. I'll get a hold of him. I'll go see him tonight, and I'll let him know and have him throw a line out to you.
Yeah, I would love that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, I've got his interview on the video where he says he actually seen one peeping around his mom and dad's trailer.
Oh, that's wild.
I can send that video to you. I can see the video of what I think is what I captured behind the structure. I've got several pictures of tracks and everything. It would just blow your mind, man.
Mm.
I'm not really afraid when I go in the woods. Because I fear I have nothing to fear, because I'm not there to harm. You know, if I'm in the woods, I'm hunting for food. I'm not hunting for sport. So I always make it clear I'm not there for evil intentions.
If that makes sense. Yeah. Have you talked to anyone in this county that they have experienced anything like infrasound or things that could cause negative effects to people?
If I haven't heard anything yet, I call my honeypot. I think I got hit with infrasound not once but twice.
Oh.
Both times I felt just horrible. Got nauseous. I thought I was going to get sick. I got real weak, lethargic. That was not a fun feeling. I haven't felt it since, but I don't think I got hit with it.
You had mentioned earlier that Hoosier is you also get reports of other things, and we stick to Bigfoot in the show unless it comes up organically. And I'm talking about Dogman. What kind of things have you heard about Dogman in this county as well, in Hoosier?
The property I call my honeypot, the owner of that property says he had a Dogman experience. He says one comes around every now and then, and he thinks that it's coming around there to, for lack of a better term, bully the Bigfoot that are there. Because, I mean, I've heard stories, and I believe it's true. There's no love lost between Dogman and Bigfoot. I think there's an ongoing turf war between the two. I've heard, I can't remember who it was that told me that they seen one on their property as well, but it was just like a quick fleeting moment of one, or what appeared to be one. They wasn't sure. I'll be honest, I haven't had very many Dogman stories told to me. but I'm always for them. You know, even though we're a Bigfoot group, if somebody's got stuff like Dogman and stuff like that, they know they can get a hold of us too, and we will help out the best way we can.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're definitely onto something there where, I have heard of things off air where there are certain areas in the U.S. where they're almost warring factions of Bigfoot and Dogman, and it can just get really dicey. And we're not even talking about land between the lakes in Kentucky. Like, this is other places that aren't really talked about a lot.
Stories, Bigfoot saving people from Dogman. I've heard stories of people seeing them actually fighting one another. I mean, I just think there's a fine line between the two. I think there's a tolerable level that I think if one crosses the line with the other, I think it's like a big old gang war in the woods.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. Based on what you've experienced and what you've heard so far, what are your thoughts about what Bigfoot actually is out there?
At one point, I thought maybe there might have been a missing link between man and ape. But now, as I think about it, I think number one, I think they're one of God's creatures. I do believe that. I think, however, on the evolutionary trail, whereas man went one way, I think that species just stayed the same path. I think they're one now with Mother Earth. I think that's why they're so good at hiding and camouflaging, because I think they've gotten so well of including people and things that I think their hair can actually bend light, like you see in the movie Predator. I think that's an actual thing. So they can see in infrared real well at night. I think that's just part of the whole evolutionary scale. And a lot of people say, well, what about the Nephilim or this or that? And I understand where they're coming from with that. Because, I mean, they make a valid point. But I just think they're just part of the earth like we are. It's just some I think they are more gifted, I guess you can say, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you, we talked about Crawford County, which kind of gets down there. Well, I guess it does. Have you heard of any things happening down by the Ohio River on the Indiana side?
Yes. I know a gentleman named Greg Yost, who was my Sasquatch man. He goes to the Clark County Forest quite a bit. He has quite a few encounters and experiences. He's actually got to build a bond with some. He's got one he calls Old Red, and if you ever get the opportunity to talk to him, you're not going to be disappointed. You'll absolutely just love his stories. I've heard a little town I'm from called Allegheny. I've actually heard. I read a report. I think it was on PFRO, where mom and daughter was going home one night. They seen one sitting on a ridge, leaning against a tree. So, I mean, there's stuff that goes on around the Ohio River. I have no doubt. So they always say, they always follow water. They always follow the creeks. And I think Ohio, probably one of their major traveling paths. But yeah, I wouldn't be shocked to hear someone catching one around there or seeing one.
Absolutely. I mean, I've had a few really interesting conversations over the years with people down in that area just outside the Ohio River in, I believe it was Indiana. But man, it's a fascinating area. Wish I could hear more about southern Indiana. I mean, it's a lot different than I think what most people picture Indiana to be. They're probably thinking more of the northern part, where maybe it's a little flat, but down the south, it's a different story.
Yeah, well, when you bring up Indiana, Bigfoot's not the top subject. You bring up Indiana, the first thing people think of is basketball.
Right. And Larry Bird and right.
Larry Bird.
Yeah.
Bigfoot's usually not even being thought of, but people would actually be amazed. There's a lot going on in southern Indiana as far as Bigfoot goes and what people realize. Again, it's one of the reasons why I created this group, because I know people are having those experiences, those encounters, and they have nowhere to turn, and that's where we come in. Tell us about it. They get anonymous. They don't have to give their names. We don't share names, addresses, locations. It all stays anonymous unless they tell us otherwise. I don't invade people's privacy.
Have you gotten to the point where you've tried to do a town hall in your area or anything like that?
Actually, it's funny you bring that up, because I was just getting ready to say October at the Paoli.
Oh, man. Hold on. We just went through a crazy reception area. Can you start that over again after, when you're going to start saying when and where it is, please?
Yeah. On October 27th at the Paoli Public Library in Paoli, Indiana, me and my buddy Teddy are going to have I guess you could say like a town hall. We got invited to come there to talk about Bigfoot, because October is known as Cryptid Month here in Paoli. So we were honored to be asked to do that. So we're looking forward to it. It's free of charge. We're not, you can come in, share your stories. Most of ours, our beliefs, our philosophies. We're very excited. We're hoping this kind of maybe leads to people knowing that, hey, there is somebody here in the area that can help us out. That's what we're shooting for. We're not in it to try to make a quick buck or to get famous. We're just strictly research.
That's great. So it sounds like the beginning of the program is going to be maybe a lecture from you guys where you'll be sharing things you've heard, and then you'll actually be opening it up to the people in attendance to share things.
Yes. We I will have little fun things for the kids and stuff when they show up. I got give them stickers, and if they want to take photos, whatever, that's fine too. Or if they just want to come and listen, we're good with that. We're happy and excited that we get to do this, because this is something Teddy and I both care about very deeply.
Well, Chance, this has been a great chat about what you guys are researching regarding Bigfoot down there in southern Indiana. And I appreciate you coming on the show to share. I want to make sure that you were able to share everything that you had come on the show to talk about today.
Yeah. I can share my brother's encounter real quick. This one's kind of funny.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Him and our cousin Woody, they were like brothers at one point. They were inseparable. They went walking to the back of the property just to check on the crops, so I'll leave it at that. While they were back there, my brother said him and Woody both heard this loud thud and this rolling sound down, coming down the ridge. He said when he turned around, he said this figure looked like about 6 feet or so, reddish, brownish hair, jumped up on 2 feet and just shot up the ridge like it was nothing. He was like, Bubba, he goes, that looked like it was gliding up the ridge. That's how fast it was moving. And he said when he turned to get Woody's attention, take a look at it, well, our cousin Woody left it high and dry. He'd already head back to the house. He left our brother sitting there. So
that's right. You just got to be the quickest guy.
Yeah, and that's what I told my brother. I said, you don't have to be the fastest. You have to be faster than the person behind you. And unfortunately, you were the one behind him.
Right. That's funny. Wow. And I've heard that in other reports as well, where it does almost look like they're gliding even when they're running, which is extremely interesting.
They say, people say they look really smooth. It's almost like the fluid, the motion is so fluid. It's just almost like watching a wave vertically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I've heard also almost like watching a cross country skier, if
Yeah,
people are
yeah.
familiar with that, what that would look like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my former employees was going home from work about 2:30 so in the morning, heading toward, I want to say, Gold. And he told me he seen a creature run across the road and stand behind a sign. He said he watched it put its hands up on the sign and cover its face when he drove past it. He said he could see the hands, the fingers, the nails. He goes, and it never dawned on me until I got home. He goes, I couldn't comprehend what I seen, which makes sense because when you see something that you don't recognize, your brain automatically tries to reset itself. So you constantly question, what did I see, or what did I do, or to that effect. So it got bit by the bug after that. I just thought that was pretty. He told me where the stop sign was. It was up on a hill. If it was as tall as I think it is, it had to be well over 8 to 9 feet tall.
Oh,
he
wow.
said it ducked down to height.
Really, really interesting stuff for sure. Man, Chance, we'll have to keep you in mind for the future if we ever need to reach out and talk to anyone about what's going on down there in Indiana. I will definitely keep you in mind. It's always good to know researchers in different parts of the U.S.
Please do. I'll throw out my email here. My email is spiritdrummer@gmail.com. SPIRITDRMER@gmail.com. If anybody needs to get a hold of me that's around here or needs to talk to somebody, just drop me a line and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I will answer back. I do answer all my messages. I won't leave anybody hanging for a long period of time if I can help it, because our work schedule and everything it's kind of different than most people.
Gotcha. And is there a way people can keep up to date with your group specifically?
Yeah, they can go to Facebook. I've got a Facebook group right now, Orange County Bigfoot Group. Just look it up. It's open to the public. You'll see a picture of Bigfoot. You'll see mine and Teddy's profile pictures in there. I try to get on there as much as I can to give updates and everything. And I let people know if I come across any new activity or have any new experiences or encounters. I always leave it open to everybody to talk and discuss things. I like to look at it as a big family. Is what I want to look at it like as. That we're not just individuals. We're one big family that believes in this, has the passion for it, and want to learn from it.
Absolutely. I think that's how we're going to be able to get some answers in the subject in the future if more people start to be able to work together and all of that. But I'll make sure to put that information in the description for this episode, Chance. But thank you so much for coming on the show today. I greatly appreciate it.
No, Jim, I thank you for asking me to come on. It was a great pleasure and great honor talking to you. But in fact, I had just literally got to listen to one of your episodes just before you called me.
Oh, there you go. Thank you. I appreciate that too.
Right. Thank you, Jim. I appreciate it, buddy.
Have a good one, sir.
You too.
Before we wrap this episode, I want to say something directly to a very specific group of listeners. If you're in the military, any branch or forces, and if you've seen something that no one can explain, or if you're a national park ranger or forestry worker who's been told to stay quiet, or if you're a pilot who's seen something strange down on the ground, or if you're with the FBI, a federal agency, or working intelligence, and you stumbled upon something you're not allowed to talk about, and if you're a firefighter, paramedic, or search and rescue responder who's heard screams or found tracks that didn't make sense, if you're in the logging industry, on a remote oil field, or a trucker with government contracts, and you've had something happen that you've never told a soul, and if you're a biologist, a wildlife specialist, or a field researcher under contract who has found evidence you're not allowed to report, If you're a pastor, a missionary, or someone on a spiritual retreat and you saw something that shook your faith, or if you work in the shadows, CIA, NSA, or anything with clearance, and you've seen what the public hasn't, then I want to talk to you. Even if it's anonymous, you can reach me at bigfootsociety@gmail.com. The world needs to hear what you've been forced to carry alone, and you're not alone. You've got the story. We've got the mic. See you in the woods. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Bigfoot Society podcast. Every encounter we share reminds us that the world is bigger and stranger than we think, and that the truth is often hiding just beyond the tree line. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe to the channel on YouTube, hit the bell so you don't miss the next episode, and share this with a friend who's into mysteries, monsters, or the unexplained. And if you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcast, please follow the show there and leave us a 5-star positive review, because all of that helps more people discover the show. And remember, if you or someone you know has had a Bigfoot sighting, please, I'd love to hear from you. So email me at bigfootsociety@gmail.com and let's start the conversation. If you haven't gotten a chance yet, check out our membership community over at www.bigfootsocietypodcast.com. And that's where you can hear tomorrow's episode today, early and ad-free, and members-only episodes every week. Also, it's a place to connect with other people that are into the Bigfoot subject as much as you are. Thanks again for following along with the Bigfoot Society. Until next time, keep your eyes open, trust your gut, and never stop asking what else might be out there. And see you in the woods.